It's Serral. He's back. He's loving AoE for life, and he's here to give us a treat. 2v2, him and Zhuge versus Zertin and Salami. Let's get to it. What a one to get into as well. Almost mirroring each other exactly here. You've got English on both sides, but although it's a blue, it's a different kind of blue because we've got Mongols on one side and French on the other. The funny part is, like, this isn't the predictable Zhuge Serral nature we're used to. I wonder if coming into this, Salami and Zertin thought it'd be an exact mirror, because quite often, whenever we watch Zhuge and Serral, Zhuge is typically playing the French. He mastered them, he loves them. And then Serral would be, I'd say, Rus, maybe some English here and there, but instead he goes for the Mongols. Let's see what he's got in mind, because we're playing on Pit. Pit's a pretty open map, even on a 2v2, right? Like, it's actually kind of surprising how vast the scaling is from a 1v1 to a 2v2 on some of these maps. Like, let's check this out, right? Here's the wood line. I don't know what that sound effect was, but it's quite massive, actually. It's insane. Especially when you consider, like, this wood thickness, you know, the distance between the wood and then, like, the initial rocks feels like half this distance on a 1v1. Kind of crazy. I wonder if it'd be fun for them to try and code it. So instead of going from a 1v1 to a 2v2 map, you double the size. It's more like you 1.5 times the size, right? I actually think that that would lead to some very interesting team dynamics where 2v2s are 1.5 times 1v1 maps. Then 3v3s are 2 times that map size. And then 4v4s cap out at 2.5 times. They actually double the size. I mean, we've got Biddlin in chat. I'm sure you can confirm whether it... But it feels like this is double the size to me. Or close to. Definitely feels like it's double the size. Yeah, it is double the size. Yeah, I mean, there you go, Biddlin. Like, you know, I'm going to get your promotion, buddy. Just throw these ideas to them. Be like, KP didn't say this. I said this. We should change the modifier to go up by 0.5 each time instead of double. Or instead of 1. Anyway, let's focus on the game. Tech up's coming through. Looks like we are going to have the school cavalry, as is usually typical. But remember, it's only one French player this time. But look at the tech up timings on both of Team 2's members. Council Hall coming out from Salami already. Meanwhile, Zhuge with quite an outdated build here, actually. We don't see this as frequently anymore. The wheelbarrow into early farms. Not really a desirable thing to do in 1v1s. Maybe it works a bit better in the 2v2s, though. And then, of course, from Serral, we did see the commitment into spears despite how big this map is. Looks like he's trying to block out the gold of Zertin to stop that surge towards heavy knights. Ah, interesting. So in terms of amount of territory overall, it's not double length. If it was close to double, though, right? Well, maybe we should make it 1.25 times the size of 1v1 maps then. I'm just going to go crazy on it. I don't know. I don't think it's going to necessarily lead to tower rushes, right? Any more so than you see people do already in the 2v2s. Let's speak that tower rush, even some spearman stabs. Really effective, remember. They buff the damage on spears from 6 to 7 damage, so you have to pay attention to your peasants a lot more frequently. They can die quite a bit faster than they used to be able to. Looks like there's going to be a pull of villagers. Now, this is the interesting part. It's a pull of villagers from Salami. The short bows, they come out to play. Good choice made there. Salami covering his teammate. Will get him out of a jam. And, you know, now with all these villagers here, you can even take over the gold if you want to. Then again, Salami, once he's in feudal age, he doesn't really have that much need for gold anyway. So instead, you'll probably see him pull back towards the wood line, and he'll just chop in this area. He did make this run without wheelbarrow, though. That was not a quick endeavor. So, a lot of idle time achieved by Serral and Zhuge there. Mainly Serral. Zhuge has just been sitting on his hands, not doing much. He's going to look to participate soon. Farms being set up, Council Hall being dropped. The other side, Salami has not gone for any farms himself. He's just on sheep. I think he's planning to play out to deer, which can be quite dangerous. Luckily for him, you're not up against French, right? So you aren't going to be exposed to the most impactful units that could easily pick you apart. And the walls up from Salami. Oh, I love this. Yeah, agreed. There are definitely some elements I like about Pit for team gameplay. There are some other elements, like I said, it does feel quite the distance between you. Also, I almost feel like this central area isn't as impactful as it should be. Almost like it needs another cliff down the center of this opening, right? To create that pit, compact feeling in the center that it's meant to have. That's right. I know this is 3 lanes and I come from Dota 2, but I want 4 lanes. I won't stop until I get it. Salami. Getting a decent amount of lombos going. Serral has finally reached up into field age, and he did go up with the Deer Stone, so no trade coming out in this 2v2. Heavy focus on clashing, though. We have lombos on both sides. We have cavalry and spearmen mixed in from Serral, and it should just be a hard push of cavalry coming out from Zertin. Relying heavily on Salami's lombos to keep him alive. Looks like Zertin is already getting on the offensive. Kind of reaching those farms a little bit, but needs to be careful. He can be swarmed. Remember, the movement speed arrow will affect allies of Serral, so he can easily gap close. Not just with himself, but with Zhuge Liang. Looks like Salami is going to move in position to brunt the force of troops that are likely to come their way. Because I think the goal here is probably to use Zertin as the tank for all attention. But Salami might find himself coming under fire if he doesn't have any sort of natural defense, no walls, no outposts, whatnot. I think if I'm on Serral and Zhuge Liang's team, which would make us in a 3v2, which should make it much easier to win until I start walling my teammates in. But if I'm in that situation, I'm coaching it, I'm like, you guys should be taking out the English player. The French player can be dangerous, but in this type of composition, I'd expect him to be at the bottom. He's going to look to brunt all the assaults. And you can see that as well. Zertin, he's just trying to prep himself for flexibility here. You notice in this detail here? This isn't him being a Muppet, guys. This stable has intentionally been stopped 100 resources shy so that he doesn't commit yet. He wants to know if he's free to boom up with knights, and if he is, he can go into multiple stables. If not, he can cancel it and save himself 150 wood. Serral. He's found Zertin out in the fields. No wheelbarrow either. So, even if you get all the villagers out, it's still a hell of a lot of idle time. I love the confidence on this guy. I'm going to gather today and no one's going to stop me. Where are all you peasants running? We've got a job to do. I'm starting to question mark where Zhuge Liang's army's at. Does he even have an army? Okay, they're guarding at home. So Zhuge Liang looks like he wants to tech up. He's going to start the farms first, but I've got a feeling he's going to be trying to reach Castle Age the quickest in this game. Salami, on the other hand, is being more involved in feudal, right? Which is surprising, because traditionally, when you have a French player on your team, you get to be more greedy, because their units are just more efficient, right? They're more effective at taking early engagements and skirmishes with the Royal Knights. That's not the way this is playing out. Zhuge Liang, nice pincer coming out here. Means they should be able to snipe out 2 of the Knights. They have to settle for 1 there. So Zhuge Liang could have split fire with the longbows, just grabbed 2 groups and went for different targets. Would have killed off 2 Knights, but no chivalry being rushed just yet by Zertin. It's only now coming through after the next night, so they will get opportunities. Almost feels like a very calm start to this game. Despite the attempts at aggression, you're not seeing any player all in. It's very calculated on both sides of the equation right now. Who does that favor long term? I'd say that gives a slight edge over to the Mongols, actually. I think if you get up to Castle Age on all sides for free, unless Zertin all-ins on a Royal Institute play, the Mongol player is going to be very happy with that exchange. But that's the X factor, right? I think that's why you'll see French is always quite popular in team games, is they get so many great power spikes around their aggression. And also the cool thing is, you know, when you play team games, you're more inclined to go towards maybe a single unit in your comp, and that's what you deliver. And if you just get to mass French Knights and focus around them, like, that's your strongest unit. Usually one of the weaknesses of French players is when you get later in the game and, oh, I need Arbaletier as well, I need Spearmen, I need Siege. All of a sudden, the strengths, right, of your weave start to unravel. Before you know it, you're kind of laid naked and bare to the power of these other civs that kind of do that flexibility better. Maybe like the English later on in the game, the attack speeds, and the Ottomans with what they're able to do right now. Serral has started setting up outposts as well. This is pretty good. Seeing as Salami and Zertan are finally starting to move out. Yeah, this really is a game of who blinks first between the English players. Every time Salami moves in and sees that Zhuge has built more archers, Salami then has to build more archers and vice versa. So don't expect either of them to tech up in a rush here. But the cool thing about the way the AoE4 escalates is you're eventually going to reach a point where your economy is so thick, so big, that you are going to be able to tech up in less than a minute of not producing units. And why is that really useful in these type of maps? Well, when both sides are just going lombos, if one side ever steps back, you know, even if the other side just stops producing then and begins teching up, the time it takes you to get in position to punish that tech up, it feels like you'll always arrive too late. Unless you're already parked outside their base, in which case, you know, home field advantage, right? Army comp with knights is better, meat shield matters. I think that's debatable. I think as you continue to escalate, you get enough horsemen and spears that you can push the longbows away with the horsemen and body block them, and then the spears beat the knights. I actually do favor Serral and Zhuge Liang's comp right now. We'll see how it goes at the scales. There's still a micro element to these fights, but I think the issue you're going to run into are these horsemen. Horsemen and the X Factor. Another issue you have is right now, Zhuge Liang and Serral have defender advantage. And that matters on both sides of the equation, right? You've got Yam, and then you've got attack speed. No matter which way you go, one of them's going to kick in. And well, looks like we're going to kick off a fight here. Lombos do move up from Zhuge Liang. Knights are being baited in. The horsemen could wrap around the backside, but choose not to. And Serral, you're right. He is making his way up. Step redoubt underway. The first player to do it as well. This is going to be a really big problem for Salami and Zertan. They got forced to keep investing. Yeah, and this is the very baity element of the Mongols. The passive stone generation allows you to get extra troops in there. And if you just look at the raw army count, you know, it looks like it's double from Serral, but not double in cost, really. If you think about the investment, 14 knights compared to about double that in spears and horsemen, both of these units cost less. Right, horsemen only cost 120, spearmen cost 80. You're paying 240 resources per knight here. And that is why Serral was able to achieve this goal. Really good choice by him to actually go up. Now he can get into lances himself. Could even think about going to the men-at-arms. Not a bad play right now, but if you think about long-term, it doesn't feel good because Salami, if he does get up to castle, the beefy men-at-arms of the English will win out against the Mongols. Things are going to slow down for the moment. Zertan looks like he's flirting with the idea of going up. Now, if he can get up into a Royal Institute and get the Royal Bloodlines with canted saddles, he can wipe these fights, but he needs it. Let's Serral's jumping the gun a bit here. Trying to keep them engaged, keep them honest. Veterancy upgrades are coming through soon. He needs 40 seconds of the veterancy on Horseman, though. Lombo's at risk of being thrown away. They're trying to use the small stealth forest, but they're not thick enough to hide things. Spearman, he's buffering those knights off as the Lombos do retreat. Now, the counts, they're looking fairly even. Zhuge Liang still has the edge, 60 to the 42. If you keep getting picked apart in the retreats like that, it's going to start to favor Salami. Things once again going peaceful. You can see the fragility, especially in a 2v2. Like one poor fight with the way these two teams have taken to the first 10 to 15 minutes ends the game. That's why they have to be very delicate in their approach. Almost hesitant at all times. Behind this, at least Zertan is getting a secondary TC, so not rushing a tech up, but is going to look to boom up economically. Zhuge Liang is pop blocked right now. Finally realizes it, we'll adjust for it. This knight count is getting scary, actually. I think the longer that Serral and Zhuge Liang don't take a fight, the worse it begins to get. Because what can happen at any stage, Zertan can begin a tech up. If he goes immediately into Castle Age and with a Royal Institute play, you have maybe 2 minutes as Serral and Zhuge Liang to do something impactful before you're facing down Royal Bloodlines. Of course, that always comes down to whether Zertan saves enough, but the thing is, once you go around 20, 25 knights, you can stop producing them to get the resources together for Royal Bloodlines. That's the point at which it's a worthwhile investment. good scouting from Zerton. Just making sure they're staying in their base right now. You're not seeing a Lancer switch, actually. Instead, Serral is switching into crossbows. There is a danger that Serral and Zhuge become overly reliant on range units here. And then maybe you see Salami switch into something like Horseman. It's kind of crazy to say out loud, but I can see it happening after a tech up. He does have to get there first, though. I think one of the biggest weaknesses we're seeing for Salami is that he hasn't been building farms this whole time. He's been playing pocket ecos, which is good up to a point. And we've passed that point. Zhuge has been on farms so long that they've returned their investment. They've become worthwhile for him. Trying to see what other way Zerton could play this than Royal Institute. I think Guildhall is too greedy. I love when this happens. Like, oh, we don't need it anymore. He's safe from it. But, oh, that's one way you can go. Salami, he moved in for the outpost 4. We didn't even mention that. That's a really good play. That gives them the buffer zone they need to keep their opponents out. And this is where we should see them both start to think about teching up. Zerton's going to go first. And then afterwards, next 2 minutes, Salami should follow suit. In fact, at this rate, Salami could just reach pop cap. Right? You can see the count just increasing. Up to 80 military at this stage. Looks like walls are going up on the flank from Zerton here. Oh, but he got greedy about it. He went deep with this wall. He was trying to secure past the Sacred Site to make sure that they didn't have to worry about that as a win condition. So instead, he sacrifices several villages. The walls remain incomplete. Serral will look to go deep now. It's one of those tough ones, right? Like, you want to get the extra value in the area. You want to make sure that if you're playing for a later timing, you don't allow your opponents to unlock win conditions like Sacred Sites. But now, as a result, you don't really get anything out of this. Zerton even marches back with a few knights he has because he has nowhere to go. My God, the longbow army! Zhuge Liang! The age of Pew Pew is upon us. Oh, he walks up to the French like, remember Agincourt? Let me remind you, bud. On both sides, really. Longbow count at 72 for Salami. Folks, we are heading for one big clash into what will feel like an instantaneous win for one side or the other. But a good win here. Zerton, Serral got greedy. He sent the horsemen in alone. The spears were at home, so he just lost a bulk load of horsemen for nothing. Behind that, looks like the remainders will start to tech up. Salami's on his way up. Zhuge Liang as well. So everyone about to kick it up into Castle Age here. Oi, oi, oi. Snarky comments can be what they want. The only reason the Knights made the difference there is because Serral went for an assault on his own. The Horsemen do not clash with Knights on their lonesome. They're meant to be a buffer for the Spearmen and the Archers to get involved, but one of the issues is you move so fast. And everyone else cannot. So now, the good news at least, Serral eventually wanted to switch into Lancers. It's just a logical step for the Mongols, but now he does it without that squishy tank, shall we say, to take the damage initially in the Horsemen. Instead, now we'll see Serral moving for the secondary TC. It's actually free TC play out Zhuge Liang, so that's a step ahead of Salami. He only played 2. He also doesn't have one near the wood line, so there's a lot of idle time when villagers have to shift towards wood for him. It's going to make him very inefficient. He's actually the only player that doesn't have a wood line TC set up. You can see that Zerton got one here on the western flank. That is going to matter a lot, especially for Salami, considering his reliance continues on these longbows and spears, both things costing wood. I like that they haven't been greedy about walling, by the way. Like, Zhuge Liang and Serral have been incredibly passive in a lot of ways of this game. It's almost like they're encouraging Zerton and Salami to make a deep dive. And when they do, they're going to wrap around. You can see the longbow battalions coming in from the west. The march forward now, Salami moves into the base. With all the horsemen gone from Serral, they see an opportunity here. An opportunity that they want to capitalize on. I mean, Serral's army is pretty pitiful right now. At least it feels pitiful. Then again, that's more because everyone else's army is so bloody big. I mean, Zerton's is incredibly small at 34, but it's all knights. Those Knights are going to back up. Longbows stretching out a little here. Lancers are looking to engage. Armor Arrow is going to come through. It's going to buff everyone up, including Zhuge Liang's Longbows. Crossbows are going to have to back away, but it looks like the Longbows are somewhat exposed. Knights are trying to hold the front line, but I feel like Zhuge Liang's going to win this on his own. Maybe I'm wrong, though. You need spears, you need more crossbows. The Knights are overwhelmed, and they did get the raw bloodlines at the end. Longbows are going to back up. There's enough here to almost insta-snipe out the Knights, you'd think, but only if they target the same individual. A lot of ground is going to be given. Salami is able to follow this up, and what looked like it might be a decent hold for Serral ends up being the opposite. A lot of Knights being sacrificed, but a lot being given the other way as well. Longbow count is going to be reduced below 100. I say that. Is it, wow, below 100. Whoa, that's a small count left over. No, plenty still to fight with. And the starter steps of Zhuge Liang may have been what keeps them alive here. Damage most definitely done, though. Infrastructure's been sniped out. You've been retreated to your own base. And behind this, sure, Zertin did lose the Knight army. But Serral lost everything as well. Once again, I'll say that, you know, that is Zhuge Liang winning that fight. If it isn't for him, that's a complete rout. Downside, though, is Salami did get this outpost up. You need to get rid of it quickly, otherwise you're dealing with that attack speed buffer. It means that Salami can exchange with smaller quantities reasonably well. So Zertin is prepping new lines of Knights behind all this. It's going to be slow, though. Remember, although he's playing 2 TCs, he hasn't got Military Academy. He's only got 3 stables. So you don't escalate as quickly as you could. One of the benefits, of course, is because you do get the School of Cavalry, you produce your Knights 20% faster than other civs. Which means that the English players are probably less likely to want to engage with that element. I do see one bad side to what Shigeo's done here, though. One downside. It's too many Longbows. Whenever you see this many Longbows, good God, oh, those villagers. The choice becomes very clear. Salami will build Mangonels. And Serral, well, if Serral goes into crossbow spears, they don't have a way of dealing with Mangonels easily. In fact, if Zertin just builds mass Knights, he has a great body blocker to keep the Mangonels alive in the fight. And you can micro all you want. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for you with 110 Longbows to dodge all these catapult shots. Even with staggered formation. The way they're going to spread out is going to make them incredibly inefficient when fighting. Oi, oi, oi. And, well, one upside at least is Serral is playing as the Mongols. So if he gets the blacksmiths, he can go into the siege engineering improved. But to do that, you need to go to a stone outcropping, and you don't have one anywhere nearby. Oh, Lord. Okay, I mean, this is crippling then. If they don't get siege ready, if they don't get siege workshops ready on the English player, they're not going to have anti-siege. I don't expect Serral to be the one doing it either. If anyone can now afford to do it, it's Zhuge Liang. Just look at his economy in the bank. He's pretty much capped militarily as well. Yeah, he's got 22 Longbows in the queue. He needs to get the gold together to make his weapon Imperial. That would be the edge you'd need. Mangonels are still going to hurt you, but you'll just run through Salami's army so quick, it won't matter. It becomes more difficult when you allow them breathing room like this. Once again, the hesitation sets in, and Zertin gets to keep up in the center to secure the gold. Double Mangonel now in play for Salami. A difficult fight for Zhuge Liang to take. Tech up is ready at least. Maybe now it's time to throw away a few Longbows. Instead, he hesitates. He gives over ground again. Now, Serral, if he pivots to the right side, he maybe gets behind on top of these siege weapons, but it's so much to ask. There you go. Stagger formation it will be. And it's going to be the Berkshire Palace. And this doesn't feel good to do. Berkshire Palace, whenever you're mirrored against an English player, is a huge disadvantage long term. Unless you are securing a key objective like a sacred site or dropping it in an opponent's base, it doesn't feel good to have to build this landmark. And this means that Salami, as a reaction, can go into Wingard Palace and long-term win. Folks, I'm not exaggerating. I've watched this matchup, the English mirror, a lot. And although this is a team game, the dynamics still remain the same. As the game goes on, you are going to expend a lot more resources into trebuchets, into armies than the player with the Wingard. It's not a fast win for Salami, sure, but it'll get him there long term. Just needs to sort his gold first. So, Zhuge first one to go up. Now, with this tech up, he at least has some advantages short term. He can get the upgrades in place. He can get the elite lombos. He can even go into the network of citadels now that he's finally got a keep. And that could be enough to wash Salami's army away. But he does need to be fast about it. Because right now, they are losing a lot of map control. Lombos and spears moving in. Springles have been prepped by Serral. He went to the Siege Workshop in the end. He has also got the Siege Engineering improved. It's like he's going to lose a few of the Springles there as they start to trade out. Attack speed aura helping Salami a little bit here. Really not enough siege here. Mangonel shots coming in a big. Zhuge Liang. Heavy hit to the center of the formation. Already down to 70 and full and fast. Mangoes have at least been cleaned up, and now Knights are arriving from the flanks here on all sides from Zertan to swarm over Zhuge Liang's army. Mangonels are also going to be exposed before they can get their bang for buck onto Salami's Longbow Battalion. Final flurry coming out before they die. Heavy damage done in return. But all of a sudden, it's looking pretty damn good for Team 2. The keep drop's going to be attempted. Zhuge Liang trying to wrap around now. Still enough longbows to hold on. And now with the movement speed in their favor, Serral's going to push out. We paid so much attention to the blue. We did not give praise over to the pink. But it is not only a fabulous color. There's a color being wielded by a god of RTSs right now. And he's proven that. He's actually contributing a lot to these fights right now. Longbow Battalion is falling short of hitting anything at this stage for Salami. He's got nothing left in the chamber. They're going to have to back off. Good fight on both sides. Zhuge Liang still once again. Although he should be counted out by X, Y, or Z, it's just a non-stop clickage of longbows to the front side. And it's always gaining ground. Sacred sites are now capped, but won't be for long at this rate. Keep is going to go up. Zertan and Salami, they flip the script. They set the pace. But now, can they keep up with what they've set? That's going to be the thing we're going to find out. And they've got keep set up around the sacred sites. Looks like the eastern one is going to be decapped. So all pressure to rush to an end for Serral and Zhuge Liang is now going to be removed. I mean, I'm impressed with him, though. Zhuge Liang, like, he's been teched up for ages. I had my doubts about that fight because he still hasn't elited up his boys. I don't know if he forgot or he just never has enough gold, but whatever it is, like, he has not made them elite longbows yet. So really, Salami was on even ground, but he had the Mangonels, but still it just didn't matter. Even when they snipe out half the siege, even when they wrap around the end, Serral has enough in the chamber to keep on firing. And I mean, that was the difference maker there. If it's not for what Serral was doing with Siege Engineering improved, I think they get wiped. I think they get pushed back. But because he's got so many Springles out in the field, he keeps the dream alive. And soon we are going to see Network of Citadels. Still are not seeing the elite status upgrade on Zhuge Liang's boys yet. Salami has now teched up though, and will be going into the roller shutter triggers. So he'll have the edge on anti-siege. Serral will not be able to match that, let alone exceed it, until he gets to Imperial himself. I'm wondering, are we? Yeah, we are. I was about to say, are we setting up for trade? Zertan is switching into trade. It's very important that the French player does this before the gold runs out. Yeah, if there's any civ in the game that can't handle having no gold, I think like the French are #1 in that regard. They get crippled the hardest by far. Especially with this composition. All Knights again. A lot of forward infrastructure from Salami, so we are going to see it Men-at-Arms switch up. A good choice now, because Zertan, you know, he's been doing a lot, but I don't think it's about this probing with the ranged anymore. It's about how you dive. Knights can dive to a certain extent, but replacing them afterwards becomes difficult. Men-at-Arms are half the price and very chunky for the English. And keep in mind that Zhuge Liang over-invested into Lombos. In fact, it's kind of been the story of the whole game. It's almost like he's allergic to anything else. But we are seeing him now switching to racks as well, so he could maintain the edge here. And finally, Zhuge Liang, he kind of face palms it. He sees elite status, but he locks it behind longbows. Oh boy. Am I the only one getting the feeling we might not even see elite longbows this game, despite the fact Zhuge Liang has been in Imperial Age for several minutes now? I mean, it's wholly possible. especially with this many military production buildings. Oi, oi, oi. Zerton with a flank attack, though. Like that they're moving things away from the keeps, because by doing this, they move Zhuge Liang away from his aura. Notice no glow. His Lombos do not have an attack speed buffer right now. Zerton, maybe a little bit overzealous here. Whoopsie. Maybe that's a throwaway of a few knights. Most will get out, but heavily injured. And wait, are they going back the other way? Interestingly enough, they might be. Yeah, they've got trebuchets in the location. They're going to snipe out the outpost. They can even look towards the keeps here. Now, the Sacred Site win condition is not ticking down anymore. Now, I'm going to have to keep backing up. All players now up in Imperial Age. Let's see what Serral is going to whip out. This should be where Siege is but a pipe dream for the Northern team. Because remember, Serral can go into improved shutter triggers. So he will have the answer to any Siege encounters. Walls are going to start going up. Mangonel's becoming freebies from Serral there. Interesting place to find one of them. But the push continues on the east side. Serral and Zhuge Liang, they say we've had enough. Keep going. Mass range here. Mangonel shots are going to come out. Good dodge. Zhuge Liang does minimize the damage done. Knights are going to be forced to engage here. The golden hats are out. Leroy Knights trying to do whatever they can, but the crossbows can cut them apart. Longbows are being ignored. If anything, they're the ones they need to go after, but the crossbows just simply cannot be ignored. Attack speed arrow is going to come out. Great optimization by Serral to get maximum value here. The Knights, they're going to have to run away. Heavy damage done, though. So many of them falling there, and they're not easy to replace. Salami keeps moving in, though. He has the edge, remember. The Mangonels are the X factor here. There's no anti-siege coming out from Serral or Zhuge Liang. Behind this, are we going to see any anti-siege is the question mark for me. Knights have broken through. Zerton's making his way into the economy. Remember, only one side walled the center, so they can just peel off a few knights and go deep. Meanwhile, the main army's being cut apart. They've been split into two. That means Serral's going to lose all of his troops at this rate. Archers are no match for this. They're starting to bow down. They just don't have an answer to this anymore. Remember, they waited so long to utilize the Lombos, and still Zhuge Liang does not have elite status on these Lombos. This is about as one-sided as it's going to get. No attack speed or aura for Zhuge Liang. Now playing at a tech disadvantage. No siege to protect him either. His allies' army has been wiped out. Serral cannot assist anymore. And well, Serral is now the front line, so him not being able to rebuild the army is also going to be a big problem. Oh man, I just think back to how different this game maybe could have been if Zhuge Liang was able to get the upgrades quick enough. But so many things are going on here. So much pressure constantly forced on both sides. It's easy to slip and miss something that seems obvious in hindsight. Now they're just going to plow through. Hey, this is not going to stop. These outposts are also all sprinkled, so they're not going to kill fast. It's not like you got cannon emplacements. They at least have the attack speed aura on their side again, but behind this, reinforcements are not going to be there. Trebuchets are moving in, so a lot of the infrastructure of the Mongols is going to be cleaned up. And behind this, I know there's a second wave coming down the center. You can see the fort keeps set up, the stables around them. Zerton's not going to stop with the night push. I'll at least slow down for a moment. The Mangonels really have been the MVP in this game. Salami never hesitant to double down on them when he keeps seeing that Serral doesn't have the improved shutter trigger sprinkled at his disposal. Although we've got to talk about this. Salami, these are not camouflaging themselves as packed up buildings, sir. These are trebuchets that should be used. Notice this detail. This is a cool thing for you to take note of when you're playing games like this. When Salami's army starts to die, he pulls the remainder back to the bottom corner, the furthest away from his base. What this does is it ensures that Zhuge Liang and Serral's troops aren't in a position to take map control after they win a fight. Instead, they have to run across their initial base to get back to the front line. And by the time they arrive, there's a new troop waiting to fight them. I mean, this is starting to fall apart. It's not a fast death, but it's just the Knights are always in now. Gold is also drying up fast, and I mean, I gotta say, I don't know if they're prepped for this. The English player at least has enclosures, but what does the Mongol player do? Another reason that we're not seeing anti-siege and we're not seeing shutter triggers is, where do you get it? There's no gold left. Serral has been bled dry. literally and figuratively here, by the amount of dead villagers in the area. At that stage, you're just a food and wood boy. What can a food and wood boy do long-term against Royal Knights? Hold at best, it feels like. I think this is the last Ura moment, but they're split. Zhuge Liang's going down the center. The walls will stop him getting through. Meanwhile, Serral's marching eastward because he needs gold. But I don't know if he's going to get it. Small contingent of Royal Knights in the area, but the second wave will break him. This many crossbowmen will not be able to deal with it. And I mean, this might be the point where you start thinking about waving that white flag. At least get the attack speed arrow out, but Knights are going to wrap around onto the crossbows. Outposts are being rushed up by Zert. He says, I won't give this over for free. This is my gold, my shinies. I think Zhuge Liang is now stuck in a rut. Serral needs his assistance, but he's stuck doing this. I mean, it seems effective because Salami isn't really even fighting back with the men-at-arms, but once the Mangonels start to engage, which they are, alongside the Trebs as well, this is just going to be an army wipe. And behind it, Zert's now coming in on the west flank as well. He's just reading what Zhuge Liang's going to do ahead of time. Quick walls are going to be going up. Men-at-arms trying to charge through, but not fast enough here. He's so busy trying to pathfind around, he's not choosing to torch down any of it. We'll at least get around in the end, but I'm still worried about what's happening over here. Enough outposts have been set up that you can't really torch this down if you try to march into Serral, so no gold for you. Center is also starting to give way. Great plays, actually, from Zert and Salami. They forced this awkward stalemate for a long time. They put pressure on when needed. I want to give a really big shout out to Zhuge Liang as well. The mass longbows was effective for so long, but you see the issue with being so reliant on one unit is if you don't have any anti-siege, Mangonels will come out to play, and they will be your undoing, which is exactly what happened in this game. And even with a great response, I think the biggest detail to loom upon it is the lack of upgrades when the Imperial Age came through. Zhuge Liang wasn't able to get into those upgrades quick enough. It prevented him from getting a power spike out of Imp. In fact, the only thing you really got out of Imp, if you think about it, compared to the differences from his timing to Salami's timing, was a keep. Outside of that, there wasn't really much for him. Now there's really not much left to do. Man, French are so annoying in team games. These Knights are just so chunky. 364 HP. Nothing you can do about it. Well, I think that'll be farewell to the StarCraft 2 pros. Another point on the board for the AoE4 lads here. I mean, they're losing fights on every flank right now. This is pretty grim. Pit's an interesting map, though. It really doesn't play like Pit in 2v2s. It plays like something entirely different. Something that I think definitely enables cavalry-based civs. That'll be it. GG gets called. A win for Shalami and Zertin.